Hey, this is Brian Carmen from We Are Resolute. You are listening to The Wild Man and Steve.
You are about to listen to the intersection of faith, talk, and music. The Wild Man and Steve show starts right now.
So, Steve, you know, we've been doing this show now for a while, and I finally, after going into our third year, I do have a serious bone to pick with you.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Now, hang on. Hang on. I'm talking to Steve, the partner, and then we can talk to Steve, the guitarist, here in a second.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's all right. No problem.
I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know about the whole bone picking thing. So I was a little confused, to be honest with you.
I should have thought about that. So Mr. Perkins, let me put it that way. Mr. Perkins, so there's no confusion. So, you know, we've been doing this show for a while, and for the most part, you and I have gotten along. We've never really had any contention or anything like that. But before we bring the guest on today, I just had to put this out there, just had to air my grievances, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You know, you and I have been on shows, other podcasts, right, who have invited us to interview. I was on a couple here recently over the last few months. I was on one towards the end of the year, then I was on one just a couple weeks ago. And you know, the one, I'm not going to say who it was because I'm not going to put them down or embarrass them, but they introduced me on the show and they said, "We're so glad that we have Wild Man with us of the," and I quote, "of the Steve and Wild Man show."
I don't see anything wrong with that.
And so, of course, I'm sitting there going, okay, I can't correct this. And so I'm thinking they're going to correct themselves. And then later on, they say it again, and then they say it again, and then they say it again. So I just bit my tongue and never corrected them that technically it is the Wild Man and Steve show. Then I got to thinking, you know, as you and I have hobnobbed about this for a long time, something tells me you might have been behind that.
Here's the thing, Wild Man. Where would the captain have been without Tennille? You know, where would Sonny have been without Cher? Wild Man and Steve and Wild Man. Does the order really make any difference?
Where would the skipper be without Gilligan?
Where would the skipper be without Gilligan? I ask you. Where would we be without our guest?
We would be right here, right now.
What happened?
Steve Scott, can you hear me? Anybody home?
I think he's gone.
I tell you, that's what happens. You know, our intro this time was bad enough.
We have been trying to offend a guest badly enough that they would leave, and finally happened.
Yeah.
Congratulations to us.
Let me see if I can get a hold of him here.
Chance to redeem yourself, refresh and follow ways. There's a book sitting on your shelf,
So if I hear you right, Steve, are you saying that you did have something to do with that host misquoting the title of our show?
No, I'm not saying that. And here's why I'm not saying that. First of all, I don't believe that it was a misquote. I believe that it really should be the Steve and Wildman show. Second of all, I can't help it if other hosts simply understand the truth of the situation. And that was not on me. Don't put that on me. Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on me.
Could you possibly, I have a hat on, you have a hat on. Could you read the hat for us, please, Steve? Could you read the hat?
Can you just move along?
I think it says Wildman and Steve.
Hey, thank you. All right, we got it. All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the show, and everybody's on the edge of their seat right now waiting to hear Mr. Segway, Mr. Steve Perkins, Latin teacher, rock and metal enthusiast. Mr. Segway is going to introduce another amazing guest that we have. So, Steve, the floor is yours.
Well, we do have a great guest, and we're going to get to our guests as we always do. But all kidding around aside, Wildman, you like to poke fun at me, and that's great, and I have fun with that and so forth. But the core of this show, wouldn't you agree, is really about connecting people with Jesus. And, when I think about it, and I tell students this, I tell young people about this, you have got to stay grounded in the word, because one of the things is people will say, oh, God told me this and God told me that. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? You can't say that unless it squares up with scripture. I mean, it has got to be squared up with, the 66 books of the Bible, just that the word 66, man. If you can square it with the word 66, then that you are really walking with the Lord. And so I just wanted to get that clear before we get into whoever our guest is. I don't even know what group we've got on tonight.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we got that clear.
I think it's amazing that God told you to say that.
He did.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome to the show tonight Steve Scott from the Word 66. How are you doing today, Steve? Welcome to the program.
I am doing great now, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is an honor. So we have a lot to get into, a lot to talk about here with the band. To begin with, if we can go back in time a little bit, how did you get started in music in the first place? Because we all know, and Steve would have to agree here, because I'm of the same ilk, that you do play the best instrument that God has ever created. Because myself being a guitarist also, that's just the way. Whatever got you started in that in the first place?
I would probably say I was about 15 when I really got into guitar. Before that, I actually played the trumpet, was my first instrument. I was in band, and nice. I got to tell you, I was pretty bad. I just couldn't get it. It was funny because I kind of remember that I'd be in this big group of people, we'd be playing band, and we'd be playing some music, and the conductor would be doing stuff. And I noticed that he had a funny face going on, and I knew it was me. I was like playing like the wrong notes or something, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I remember those days. But yeah, guitar was something I always wanted to play, so I started playing probably at about the age of about 15 or so.
He said that he had your number. You cut the telephone line. You said you needed a reason. He said there ain't much.
Hey everybody, Wildman here. I'm looking for my man Steve, my partner. Maybe
he said that he had your number.
Oh, he's over there.
The telephone
I can hear him. You hear him, guys?
I say you needed a reason.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
He said there ain't much time.
Steve.
Oh, but when you lose, you win.
Hey.
That's the way it is. That's when the love comes down.
Oh, he's got his.
That's when the love comes down.
He's got his headphones on. He can't listen to me at all. Steve. Steve, give me your headphones. Come on, I'm trying to. Steve, come on.
Hey, dude, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Dude, I was listening to my cassette of Rez Band's album Between Heaven and Hell.
I'm sorry. Did you just say cassette?
Yeah. Man, I gotta be honest, it's getting pretty worn though. I mean, I've had this thing since the 80s, man. Well, man, this cassette is starting to sound a bit rough. But you know what I thought I might do? I thought I'd just like play it really loud and then record it through my computer. Just like hold my headphones up to the computer mic.
Oh man, that would sound terrible. Man, you always come up with the great ideas, don't you? Good grief. That would sound horrible. You need Girder's remastered versions. The sound is clear and crisp, and you get a collector's trading card with each one. Go to girdermusic.com and get yours today, along with Disciple as well.
Dude, man, that sounds great. Hey, give me my headphones back.
Oh, no.
Oh, but when you lose, you win. That's the way it is.
Folks, go to girdermusic.com right now.
That's where
and
the love
what you
comes
hear
down.
is a little better than this.
Oh, but when you lose, you win. That's the way it is. That's where the love comes down. That's where the love comes down. Now, you talk about band, and I was a choir kid growing up. My wife was in band. So, obviously, big difference between band music, marching band music, trumpet music, right, and the kind of rock and roll that you guys play. Was the classics of rock, was that a part of your background? Was that something that you got into later, or was whether it be Christian or secular rock, was that also a part of your mix early on?
Absolutely. I used to go to the store like every week or two and go pick up an album, if anybody remembers those things. Mm-hmm. I have this huge album collection in my closet. And so I always used to buy some stuff. And, I was influenced by a lot of some great bands. I would have to say, not a Christian band, but Sabbath was probably one of my biggest influences. I remember I used to have this little thing where I would put on a record and I would sit on the corner of the edge of my bed and I would just kind of rock like this while I was listening to the music. And Tony Iommi's licks and fifths that he played just used to freak me out. And I knew that's what I wanted to do as well.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So I just got to ask, having said that, was it a Gibson SG that you started with, or what was the first guitar you had?
As a matter of fact, it was a Gibson SG.
Hey, yeah.
How did you know? And and I wish I kept that guitar, and I got rid of it, unfortunately. I actually have this acoustic guitar that I picked up around that time as well that I still play. It's kind of a piece of junk, and it's all worn out, and it needs new frets and all kinds of stuff. But it's still one of my favorite guitars.
All right. Great.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could find a more beat up acoustic used in performances than that ridiculous thing that Willie Nelson always plays. If you've ever watched, it's got like a big old hole in it. It's ridiculous. And so, it doesn't matter. It's like in the right hands, or if that's your instrument, you just really stay with that. And so what's your main acts today? What do you like to play?
A Charvel, actually. I have an old one that I bought many, many years ago before they merged with Jackson. That's probably one of my favorite guitars. Cool. Funny story is that, the headstock on the Charvel comes to like a point. And one day I left my music room open and my Husky got into the room. And for some reason, that point just looked kind of yummy and just like went to town on my guitar. So,
ooh.
That hurts in hearing that story, but at the same time, I could see some great album cover material there.
Yeah,
the picture of that chewed up headstock. That's a great image. So,
dude, that actually would be good. I can see that. I'm right with you on that.
Yeah. Maybe without the dog chewing it up. Maybe the apple.
You put the dog on the side or something. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's gone. But
but
be content with what you have. Never will I leave you. So say with confidence.
talk to us about the word 66. So how did this band get started? Was it something that you've known each other for years, or was it something you met and said, hey, let's start a band? How did it start?
I had something happen in my life, and I was actually out of music for quite a while. I had put my axe down. I thought I was done. I didn't really think I was going to play anymore. And I stopped doing the church thing as well, man. And I was gone for a while. And then I had this incident that happened in my life. And I felt that God called back specifically to do this project because he wanted me to spread the word through the music.
Wow. Wow. Now, was faith always a part of your life in church, relationship with Jesus, or did that come along later and then fall away, or kind of what was that part of your story?
I grew up without any religion whatsoever. So it's something I found later on in life. Things were at one point in time, things were kind of not so great in my life, and not that they're so great now, but they weren't so great. And it just so happens that I was working with this guy who introduced me to a church. And the funny thing is that he knew that I was really into rock, and the way he kind of really introduced me is he goes, hey, are you familiar with Christian rock? And I was like, no, not really. And of course, if you're not into Christian rock and people say Christian rock, you have these weird notions of what that's actually going to sound like.
Yeah.
You don't really think it's going to sound like good rock and roll, with just good lyrics. But he introduced me to a couple of bands, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And things kind of took off from there.
Yeah, we've had several times on the show. We've had Les Carlson from Bloodgood. We've had Michael Bloodgood from Bloodgood. In fact, we're getting ready to go interview these guys when they have a show here in the Midwest coming up in a few weeks. And that's one of the things that, in fact, Michael Bloodgood in particular was telling the story. When they got started in the 80s was exactly that. It was, in fact, their first album has the title of Metal Missionaries. They really wanted to go after people through metal, and particularly metal, because that was the big thing in that era. But it was also wanted to produce a quality product, right? So this is not about, kind of a bait and switch sort of thing. Hey, we'll play a little bit of something here, but then we're going to sucker punch them and get them with Jesus. No, it's like we want really solid, good music here, solid rock and roll, and obviously that was something that worked for you as well there. So who were some of those early bands for you, those early Christian bands that got a hold of you?
The usual, like Petra, and I did like those guys as well. Bloodgood is a cool band. I mean, it took me a little while to get into that because, I mean, back at that time, I mean, I was probably, that's when my hair was down, halfway down my butt kind of thing. And, I was in the hard rock metal bands as well. So, I was into, other things at that point in time, like Priest and
sure.
And Dokken and, Tesla and all those kind of bands. So yeah, it kind of was a slow, gradual, move into other genres.
Yeah.
So with the word 66, and you have the project out, you have the new single that just was released. To talk to us about the band itself, how would you? I mean, us as the listeners, I will say you have a great sound. I got to get into it right away. My one son loves your song, Going to the Promised Land. As soon as that intro starts, he's like, man, I love that he just gets right into it. Because that's a song that you can't sit still on that song, folks, just so you know, if you haven't listened to it yet.
Resistance, our hearts are hardened. You let your people go.
But when you are putting together a song, or when you're doing what you're doing, how would you describe to fans out there that haven't heard you yet what you sound like?
I would say that it's just good rock and roll with positive lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's it's funny because, you know, some other interviews and stuff that we've done, a lot of the interviewers are like, you know, I didn't even know you were a Christian band until I read like your bio and stuff, and I learned that you were a Christian rock band. He said, I was just, you know, rocking to the tunes and I didn't even realize it. So that's pretty cool. And I think that's a big reason why God gave me this purpose, because I think we're going to reach people that normally might not have been reached before. You know, we were just on featured on this one show that's on Hard Rock Hell radio, which I think is pretty cool because, you know, again, I like to think that we're bringing a little bit of light into the darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
There it is. There it is, man. That's straight out of the Gospel of John. And, you know, we've talked about this so many times. The listeners to the show, you guys have heard this. You've heard it from us. You've heard it from guests. But you really have artists who approach things from one of two ways. And I think they're both effective. You have the guys, and we mentioned Bloodgood, I'll just mention him again, whose approach is in your face Christian lyrics, right? There's no question about it, right? It's just, some of the songs are even just right out of scripture, that kind of stuff. And then you've got bands and artists who say, you know what, we want to come in under the radar. We want to come in pitching the positive lyric, whatever, kind of get in the door. We're going to do a show like Hard Rock Hell. We're going to hang out or some of the metal fests or whatever with even some of the really dark bands, perhaps even some of the satanic bands. And not that we're going to compromise on the message, but we're going to go in a little more subtle way as a way to try to reach those folks. I think you've got to listen to what is God calling you to do, and then go do that. No question. You were talking about your style, though, and I appreciated your question, Wild Man, on that. And I really loved your answer, Steve, because I was listening to some of your stuff before the show, and I was thinking to myself, it's just what I do. I sit and I go, ooh, what other influences do I hear in this, right? And do I hear this? Do I hear that? Whatever. And I found myself really not able to do that with you guys. I just found myself going, stop trying to overanalyze this and just shut up and enjoy it. And it really was good. It was really, really enjoyable. And it's not like, oh, hey, you know, this sounds like so-and-so. Obviously, there's a lot of classic rock influences there. If you really wanted to sit down and pick it apart, you could. But it really is good, enjoyable rock. Now, one of the songs that you covered, and we had featured, I think, on one of our episodes of a show, or kind of a branch of our show we used to do called the Metal Talk, was your cover of the Norman Greenbaum, Spirit in the Sky. What led you guys to do that particular cover?
We wanted to do a cover track. And we weren't sure what we were going to do. So we were trying to figure out, we wanted to do something in a classic rock vein. And we were trying to figure out all the songs that had, you know, that those kind of, that were religious or semi-religious, you know, and there's not many. So I, you know, it just came to mind, you know, Spirit in the Sky. And, you know, that's a song that's been also in a lot of feature films as well. So if you got the younger generation listening to it and they're not really familiar so much with the song, they might be familiar with it through some of the movies that they might have seen it in. So we thought that would be a good one to do.
To the spirit in the sky, that's where I'm gonna go
Next week, the Wild Man and Steve continue the interview with Word 66. Same Wild Man and Steve time, same Wild Man and Steve channel.
Next week, the Joker returns.
The Wild Man and Steve Show is now partnering with New Release Today. Find out more about them at newreleasetoday.com. And don't forget to check out our website, where you can also leave us a review at wildmanandsteve.com. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.